Thousands of years ago, a great work was begun on a barren landscape. The people behind the project erected a ring of colossal stones according to precise calculations. When the job was finished, a complex machine stood in the middle of no place. Then they disappeared, but their monument is almost intact. It is called Stonehenge. The glow of ancient knowledge has faded, but a strange power still seems to linger over the stones. It beckons some men to worship, others to search for the magic of Stonehenge. The architects are unknown. Their purpose has been forgotten. But for many, the magic of Stonehenge is still fresh. It is among the classic mysteries of the world, an immense circle of stones that stands on the Salisbury Plain in southern England. For centuries, men have called it Stonehenge and wondered at its purpose. The mystery of Stonehenge is twofold. Who built it and why? Archaeologists normally have the answer to one of those questions and can deduce the rest. But until now, we've known very little about Stonehenge and understood less. Only recently has evidence come to light that points to Stonehenge being an exceedingly complex machine, yet with a purpose so simple, it was overlooked for centuries. But finding the why of Stonehenge only increases the mystery of who built it. Stonehenge is a puzzle that seems to defy the usual methods of archaeology. There are no written clues to explain it. Theories that it was a city of the dead or a pagan temple of sacrifice have been based as much on pure speculation as on evidence. The first breakthrough in understanding came in the mid-1960s when a young astronomer entered the search.
It was a solution based on pure numbers and pure directions. And
his name is Gerald Hawkins, author of Beyond Stonehenge.
And strangely, it did require a new look. It required perhaps an astronomer to look at it as I did. And just looking through the archways, I felt that it must be more than a temple. The idea of doors in an open plain didn't make sense to me, and I felt I should see something through these archways.
So began the quest for a solution to the riddle of Stonehenge. Hawkins began by investigating the few known facts.
The earliest holes in the ground seem to date now to 2,500, 2,700 BC. Roughly the time of the Egyptian pyramids, maybe a few centuries ahead. Then the Stonehenge proper was built approximately 2000 BC. They were working there for centuries, perhaps even 1,000 years.
The world at 2500 BC was dotted by no more than a handful of civilizations. Much of the world's population lived in caves. Man was learning how to forge crude tools out of bronze. In Egypt, the slaves were still toiling over the Great Pyramids. The walls of Jericho were yet unbreached. In Mesopotamia, the Sumerians were just beginning to use a new tool called writing to record their history and legends. It would be centuries before the Jews would hide the Dead Sea Scrolls in the caves of Qumran. From the tiny island of Crete, the Minoan Empire ruled the Mediterranean world. Their ancient sea kings had not yet sailed their ships beyond the Straits of Gibraltar. No explorer had touched the shore of North America, crossed its wide expanses, or glimpsed any of its wonders. Yet in that remote time, an army of men was mobilized on the Salisbury Plain to build Stonehenge. Why?
At one time, the suggestion was the stones came down by glaciers, but it seems that the stone was indeed quarried. We have pretty well proof that it was quarried because recently museum replicas went there and found a stone with an actual drill hole. We have a sample of it here. It was cut into and shows the two halves. This stone is so tough it takes half an hour to cut with a diamond saw, yet they drilled in with no equipment except perhaps some flint chips and a piece of wood.
Why did the ancient engineers select blue stones that can be found in only one place in the world, the Presley Mountains? Rocks so hard, they dull modern cutting tools.
This is one of the inner circle of blue stones which geologists have found were brought all the way from the Preseli Mountains in Wales, and it does seem that there is really only one place in the world where they could have come from. But there is also a theory that...
Another investigator, Francis Hitching, has been probing the legends of Stonehenge, groping for a key to unlock its mystery.
There's still a lot of unanswered questions, the main one being, why on earth did they bother to put up these as opposed to those? What special kind of power did these stones contain?
Hitching believes that for the ancient Britons, the countryside was alive with supernatural spirits, and that even the rocks were endowed with magical powers. Local folklore is rich with tales like that of the Devil's Heel. It is said that the devil stalked the woods one night and left his mark in stone. According to another legend, 9 maidens were frozen into stone when the morning light caught them frolicking on the moors. Other rocks were thought to dance on midsummer's morn. It was a matter of firm belief that evil spirits presided over certain boulders, like the hunchbacked gnome that lurked under a roof of stone, or the witch who cast a spell over Tinglestone, making it unsafe to touch after dark. Positive powers were attributed to other monoliths, like the one called Stanton Drew, which could supposedly cure a sick child of the pox. Or the Fairy Stone, which was believed to emit a strange energy, like an electrical charge.
What all these legends add up to, it seems to me, is that a certain kind of power existed in them and was known to the people at that time. And as recently as a couple of years ago, there were reports of witchcraft ceremonies taking place in a series of stones called the Rollright Stones in the Midlands.
From the Presley Mountains, where the Stonehenge rocks were quarried, they were hauled some 240 miles across the landscape of England. No powered vehicles existed. Forests and narrow streams clotted the path between the quarry and the final site. How were the stones moved?